Good evening, everyone. This is Niyami Denmother, and I am back after way too long off YouTube. I figured that with the Rage of Cthurath expansion for EverQuest 2 releasing tomorrow, that it was a good idea to give everybody a bit of wonderful eye candy for it. I am going to be doing this recording in one fell swoop, so please excuse me when I trip over my own tongue, lose words, things like that. I'm not going to try to re-record and splice things together or anything like that, because the expansion is tomorrow and it's been a very long year. But I will try to get all sorts of wonderful, interesting information for you and eye candy as we go along. The first thing that I am going to show you is all of the carpenter-made furniture. Again, this is for EverQuest 2 Rage of Cthurath. Think of Cthulhu. So that you've got the pronunciation correct. Expansion. It is the 22nd expansion for EverQuest 2. It is releasing at noon Pacific on December 10 of 2025. For those of you listening to it and watching it early on, that is for my tomorrow in the morning, well, at noon. And I wanted to get this out before we hit that point. So first is the handcrafted furniture, and then the master-crafted furniture. So what I am going to do is set up a filter first to make it a little bit easier. I had a filter set up, now it's gone. So I am going to see if I can get it going. Here we go. Formless Carpenter's Primer, volumes 1, 2, and 3. Or if you're in the UK and such, it is a primer. Anyway, those 3 books, which will be available on the recipe vendor once you finish the Trade Skill SIG line, are the extent of the handcrafted recipes for this expansion. The first batch is a myriad of spike ball plants, or spike bell plants. They're very similar in looks. They will have different number of pods on them, which are those white things. And they will have a different number of leaves. They will point in different directions and things like that. But because they are so very similar in looks, I just started giving them random names. So we have Albert, and I'm going to make this larger so you can see. So there's Albert, Betty, George, who's shorter and squatter, Harry, Harvey, Miranda, Richard, and Susan. Don't ask me why I picked those names. It was just spur of the moment, what seemed right at the time. Next is the Avarice Bench, which is just a nice long plain bench. I'm trying to get it there in the background. The Avarice Brazier, which is not active flame, it is just the orange and the black coloring like that. Avarice Fence section is curved with a little bit of a corner so that you can kind of link them around like that. Then there's the Avarice Gate. Then there's a few bits of bone. It's the bent bone horn. Bone horn. And the broken bone horn. Born. These are a little bit bigger, so they're in the background here. Let me check something though, because I think I placed them before they were resized. So I want to double check and see if I did actually resize them properly afterwards. Okay. Still a bit on the large side, but good for guild halls and the like. Then we get to the Daru dishes. The Daru are the goatmen, what in Velius would be called Gomari, but here they are Daru. And you will hear a bit about it in the expansion as to why they are up in these void zones. I will not spoil that for you. So you have a Daru bowl, Daru serving bowl, and a decorative Daru bowl, which has decorations on the inside as well as the outside. There's a bunch of different spike pods. This one is just 5 spike pods. These are the poddy things like this that she's standing next to. You can stuff stalks of plants and things in there if you so desire. They tend to be all over the place. I think of them like barnacles, but they're spike pods is what the artists call them. And that one just has the 5, this one behind her. So this one right here that I am moving around has the 5 spike pods, and they're in alphabetical order, so they'll be coming up in odd ways because of the numbering. Then you have the glowing Avarice Claw, which does have an animated glow effect to it. It's not just red, it is glowing, it is flowing. Then there is the large Avarice Gate, the large purple dewdrop plant, and there will be several of these dewdrop plants as well. The long Avarice Bench, and you see this one. The smaller one is the Avarice Bench, and then there is the long Avarice Bench. So you have 2 different sizes there. Then you have a long Avarice Chain, which hangs from the ceiling, and it is just the chain. There's nothing hanging on the bottom or anything like that. It's just happy little chain hanging down. I'm sure people will have all sorts of ways to use that. Then you have the long bone horn, the long Daru serving bowl, so it's more oval in shape, the long hanging fire vine, and excuse me a moment, I am tired of my hawk pet making all those rackets, all that racket, so I've just gotten rid of it. So that's the fire vine, very pretty. You have an obelisk centerpiece. The obelisks are used to teleport from zone to zone out in the expansion. And this is what the centerpiece looks like for it. And it is an individual item so that we could get it and place it and use it for various different things for ornamentation. Let me find it here so that I can show you the size. And of course, I am not seeing it. So I set it down somewhere odd if I'm not finding it. I'll have to get one. Oh, there it is. It's a little large. And it does sink into the ground. Several of these items do. And that is because, unfortunately, there was only so much time in the day, and we didn't have the time to get art to adjust several of these things. These were taken from zone art items, so our options were a bit limited, and some of these pieces we just wanted to get out to you without having to say, nope, this can't go in for the expansion, we have to wait on it. So this is the size of it at full size. But you can get it down that small. And of of course, lower it back down. So that's at max shrink. Almost 3 caras tall. We wanted to have things that were rather large as well as some smaller things because people want to decorate guild halls as well as houses. This is the Ugothel bush. Ugothel sprawl is one of the 3 zones. And let me see if I've got it handy here. Oh, it's somewhere. It's just buried in... Oh, there it is. So that's the default size for the bush. Then you have the Ugothel seaweed grouping, which is just some red fronds. Ugothel seaweed tendrils is just a couple of red fronds instead of, well, a few red fronds instead of the larger number of them. The Ugricot plant, this is what the rare food Eerie Ugricot comes from. That is also in Ugothel sprawl, and this is what it looks like when it's closed. Again, we have an orange dewdrop spike. The purple dewdrop plant. Purple spike pod quintet. Purple spike pod septet, because there's 7 of them. The purple spike pod trio. Reaching tendrils. Yes, they really are that kind of creepy. The red and white spike bush. That's this big thing right here. It's colorful, and it's very festive holiday sort of colors. And yes, it is very flat looking leaves, but that's the way it is. Very sharp, pointy leaves, but it would make for some good holiday decoration, I think. Then we have that beautiful red void fern that's over here. Very nicely colorful. Then the 7 spike pods, which is just the empty pods again. There's this random severed tentacle, because who knows, you might want a severed tentacle for some reason. I don't know. I'm not going to judge. The small avarice gate. The small avarice teleporter. And you will learn what avarice is very shortly into the either the adventuring or the trade skill signature line. So that's not really much of a spoil to say that a certain villain who embodies greed has a realm named avarice. Then you have your small purple dewdrop plant, a random tentacle plant stock, so that goes along with the severed tentacle we saw before. 3 spike pods. Then we get to the void pitcher plants. Again, I went with just random names because there wasn't enough descriptors between descriptive differences between them to name them without being like 20 words long. 5 of this and 3 of that and pointed this direction or any of that silliness. So I just named them as the void pitcher plant Andrew, Audrey. If you're thinking there's a Seymour, yes, there's a Seymour to go along with Audrey for those who have done Little Shop of Horrors. Then there's Bob, Hortense, Yarlyark. Don't ask me to pronounce it. I don't know. It's very Cthulhu-esque, though. And of course, there's Seymour, Zarlith, and Ziggy. There are Void Zelmies out there. So they have to have their own little houses. Zelmi are like brownies. So basically these are houses for void brownies. So there's the house, the single home, and the tall house. And then we have the wide avarice gate. And those are the handcrafted recipes. Kind of hard to get really fancy and pretty when you're going to somewhere as creepy as the void with lots of eyeballs and things like that in it. But we did what we could with it. Now, I'm trying to remember what they called. There we go. Advanced formless carpenters. Master-crafted recipes, you will gain the first one at the end of the trade skill signature line. The other two will be on a trade skill recipe vendor, or not a trade skill recipe vendor, a trade skill vendor out in the unknown. I'll show you the vendor in a bit, and they will only be for 1 token apiece. So with 1 day of daily questing for the trade skill line after you finish it, you can get both of your other advanced books for those of you that have 3 recipe books. And that means all classes but provisioners. Provisioners only have 1 advanced book. All other classes have 3 recipe books. So between the signature line and your first daily, you can get all of your normal advanced recipe books. I don't know why the letter Y comes before everything else, but it does. So the yellow avarice crystal. Then there's, of course, the red, the blue, the black, that will be later in the proper alphabet. I do not know why that's sorted so oddly. I'm not even going to try to question it right now. I'll dig into it tomorrow. But there they all are. Then you have your avarice crystal base, which you could then place one of the crystals upon. That is how they were in the avarice zone. And again, you have that animated red moving flamish bit that is on it. Then you have numerous statues that are in the plane of avarice, or the zone of avarice, I should say. So that's the divine warrior, the executioner, the fallen soldier with the spear right through his chest. We'll get to a couple more in a moment. Then there are avarice floating platforms, which again, these are from avarice. So there's a right, a left, and a center. And I just hit the wrong button, of course. So here's the left. Is this one. The right is this one. And you have your avarice martyr statue. Your avarice warrior statue, which is a little different than the divine warrior, a lot different, but the naming might confuse you a bit. So the divine warrior is kneeling and sword striking, and the warrior is doing a spear strike. And then the black and blue avarice crystals. You have multiple Daru tents. The first one is the Daru chief tent, which is purple. I'm going to just examine them here to make it easier. So the chief tent is purple with a brass ornamentation. Then you have your purple Daru chief tent, which is the purple, slightly different shade of purple, and the silver ornamentation. And then you have your teal Daru chief tent. And these are able to be walked in. You can place items inside them and so forth. So you could shrink it down and have a fully functional tent. You could put a bedroll in there, a little campfire, things like that quite easily. So that will give you a bit more variation in tent items that you can play with. The Daru Hanging Ward, which is a tapestry, but it is also one of their protective wards. Then you have your decorated Daru serving bowls, so a nice stack of them. Your elaborate Avarice floating platform. Your large Avarice teleporter base, again with the animated effect. This one is fun, the large void glass orb, which does not preview well. This is what it previews like. It shows you what's behind it. So let me show you what it is. This is the large Avarice orb. And it is a full orb. It is walkthrough, which means that you could place something in it and try to, make it look like a snow globe, only red, or, somebody imprisoned in it, or whatever you want it to do. So it is very easy to place items within it. You just have no collision, so players can meander through it too, unless you have it behind a barrier. And back we go again. Then you have your lit Avarice brazier, which is this nice flamey bit here on the ground that is multicolored flames. I really like that. The Ocularis plant. The eyes are watching you. They're very much watching you. And they follow you. That's something I want you to notice. No matter which way you turn, those eyes are staring at you. Which I think is very neat. It's not, you see the eyes from one side and you don't see them from the other. Those eyes are watching you. No matter where you move, they are following. And that is not something we've seen very often at all. Then you have the purple Daru Chief Tent, like I showed you before, the red Avarice crystal, which I showed you before, the square arena stage. So you could put these various statues on top of it if you so desired. And then another stack of Daru bowls. So to show you, there's the stack of Daru bowls and then the decorated Daru serving bowls. The decorated ones are a bit more ornate. And then, for pure randomness, a small tentacled statue head. I don't know. Someone might have a use for it. It was included while I was out on my surgery, and I'm like, okay, well, we'll just, add it. Sure, fine, okay. And it is small compared to everything else, as you can see. It's down at her feet there. So that is it for the master crafted and the handcrafted. Now I am going to swap over to show you the vendor that unlocks once you finish the trade skill signature line, and you earn the currency for it from the dailies, the trade skill dailies. And the trade skill dailies are pretty simple. It's, go out, harvest these items, make these items, hand it in, boom, you're done for the day. Come back the next day, earn some more currency, and so on. Nothing too difficult or onerous or anything like that. Now we are going to the unknown, which is the third overland zone. It prevents flight until you are level 135 adventurer or trade skill. So when you hit the end of the trade skill line, you're only 133. You will have to do some missions and so forth to hit 135. So Flamebearer Taslana is who will give you the daily missions. Mass Llama was from the signature line, but this is the one we want to talk to, is little itty bitty Flamebearer Silverpot. Isn't she cute? So she has, as I said, all of those advanced recipe books that I mentioned before, but then she also has some fun eye candy. So, the Blooming Void Bush with orange tendrils that move. So it is animated, it is, subtle, but those tendrils are swaying around. And you have a Daru Researcher plushie, a Diseased Void Tree, the double Ocularis Bloom, which again is 2 eyes instead of 3, but they still will follow you as you twist and turn. Ebonlith Bloodweaver plushie, who's one of the new, oh goodness, I've lost them, Lamia. This is one of the new Lamia models. And then 5 empty red spike pods. The crafted ones are white. This one is red, so you will see several of these within this list if you want some color mixing. There's a third set that is bluish, and they're somewhere either adventuring or waiting for some other use. Then, for those of you that remember all of the appearance items that we did with Scars of Destruction and gave you in the trade skill line, we've got new variations of them that are colored. So they're shiny blue. So you've got your formless magical clamp, your formless magical dough flipper, formless magical drill, formless magical helmet. Yes, that is a stew pot with a fancy effect. Formless magical knitting needle. Formless magical ladle. Formless magical pliers. Those things look like they would hurt. Formless magical scissors. You can't see such a good angle, but they are scissors. And my Erican looks grumpy. And then the formless magical shield, which is the stew pot lid. So those are the appearance items that you can purchase. You have the glowing blue fluff bush. Yes, I did say it was glowing blue, didn't I? So that is that one. Then we have a glowing void dewdrop plant, which only seems to be glowing when you compare it to the others that are much dimmer. So there's a white set that is just kind of a grayish color, but these are much brighter. Lion Killer's Fountain, and that is filled with water at the bottom. Water doesn't preview well. So the unplaced version of it does not show you, it just shows you the water streams flowing down, but there will be water in it. I'm going to try to pronounce this. I did not name these. This is Lugal of Zob plushie. Yeah, he is headless and running around like that. Very creepy. But that's what it is. Then we have music boxes, and I will bring you to a zone so that you can hear these in a moment. These are using the music boxes that were created back in the Renewal of Row expansion, but they have music from this expansion in them. So these appearances will look familiar, you know, the whole tinkered look with the turning wheel and the spinning music reel and the horn and so forth. But there are several of those. Each one has a different look. Some of them more ornate, some of them a little shorter and plainer looking. And I will show you those more in a bit, in just a couple minutes. Then we have the Ocular Biomagus plushie. He's got some really neat colors to it. So yeah, he's a magic casting evil eye. Ugothel tree. Orange wall fern. So this is what it looks like when it's placed on the wall. A purple diseased void tree. More of the red spike pods. So there's a red spike pod quintet, a red spike pod septet, and a red spike pod trio. 7 empty red spike pods. A small glowing void dewdrop plant. A tall filled daru pot. So you can see there's grain or something in that. A tall glowing void dewdrop plant. And 3 empty red spike pods. So those will all be able to be purchased as many times as you want as you earn the currency. But unlike last expansion, there's no need to wait for research to complete for a single item. Start research again, wait for it to complete, purchase it, start research again. You can just save up your coins and buy a stack of them at once, or however you want to do it. Now, last but not least, we are going to show off the music boxes and the tunes that are within them. And again, these are different zone music pieces, not only from the overland zones, but there may be a couple of dungeons in there or specific regions in the overlands. So it'll be a bit of a mix and a match. All of these are anywhere from, I think, 50 seconds or so to a minute and 20 seconds. I used the fancier music boxes for the longer pieces because there's 4 more elaborate music boxes and 4 slightly plainer ones. So the more mundane looking they are means a slightly shorter piece. But they're all really nice pieces. And again, this is a very void-themed expansion. So the music is kind of bombastic, I would like to say. There's a lot of, deep tones and things like that in it. So first is the Garian Throne Room. Hungarian is another name for avarice. So it is the specific throne room within the plane of avarice, or the realm of avarice, or however you want to call it. Next is the Leviathan's Pit. One thing to note with these music boxes is that zone music will collide with it. So if you have these placed in a guild hall or any of the zones that have their own background music, it is going to compete. They'll both be playing at once. It'll sound very muddy. That's one of the reasons why I am using one of the Frostfang C in rooms, because they don't have any background noise. Then you have the Night Scar Prison. Zanzibars. Now the slightly longer ones. Rage of Cthurath. is the theme music to the expansion. Next is the Synod Dais. Reither Ruins. And last but not least is Zorix's Tower. And that is it for the ear and eye candy. The expansion will be released in, well, from the time I am recording this, it's about 16 hours away. By the time this is uploaded, it will be a lot less time than that, because this will take quite a while to go onto YouTube, I am sure. Thanks for watching.
Greetings.
Have a good day, and I will see everybody in another video, I am sure. Hopefully it won't take me a full year to do my next video, but I will be around, and I will try to do a bit more recording now and then. Take care.